Welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is...
Bryon Kazaska. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. How are you, Bryon?
Doing pretty good. I am super pumped to do On the Air Episode 3.
Episode 3, and this one did air in the United States on June 27th, 1992 on ABC.
1992?
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 80s, really, but the 90s is my era. That's the era I still think I'm in half the time.
I agree with you. Me too.
You know,
that is like the music, the films.
Yes, the TV culminates from the 90s.
Like, you know, when you had your parents and they were always like, "Oh, it was the 70s that I loved," and you're always like, "What? What is it? Why are you so hung up on this decade of yours?" And then when you get older, it's like, "Yeah, the 90s. That was the decade of Twin Peaks."
Yeah, and your son's probably going, "Dad, you talk about the 90s enough.
Like,
Can you get over it?
You're not even in the century."
Get over it, man.
Yeah. So this was, written by Bob Engels, who, famous for co-writing Fire Walk with Me, and of course wrote and produced Twin Peaks, and directed by Jack Fisk, good friends with David Lynch, and he's directing this episode. This one was the second of 3 episodes that will air
in the United States.
In the United States. So it was 1, 3, and 5.
Wow. So we're lucky enough to be talking about the one that did air in the U.S. Because if you go back to episode 1, we do go through about all the episodes that aired in different areas. Now, Ben, this episode, it was high on antics. It was high on cartoon foolery. It felt like I was watching a Looney Tunes cartoon this one.
Boy, the sound effects, it was just me, or it seemed like there was a lot more sound effect goofiness in this one than in previous shows.
This one felt like a Looney Tunes cartoon because of the sound effects. It was very out there, very outlandish. And yet again, this is our second episode in a row where, guess what? They're not doing the Guy Ritchie show. The Guy Lester show.
Yes, they are.
Well, they're doing a game show.
But it is under the umbrella of the Guy Lester show. It's it's like Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live has all these skits under this.
See, I thought, I didn't know it was a skit. I thought this was a whole big thing just to humiliate.
No, this is under the Guy Lester show.
Oh.
And I can tell you why.
Yeah, tell me why.
Because we have the live show, and the announcer mentions the Guy Lester show, and then we have Guy kind of doing his miming near the light post and stuff. Right. So it's the same. It's the show.
Okay. But, I mean, we're just focused on this one thing.
But I'll say that, again, this is why I think they got rid of the second episode, is because this one is similar to the first one, where you have the rehearsals, and then you have them actually putting on the live show, whereas the second episode is they were rehearsing, but then they went to a restaurant. I actually like the restaurant one better than this episode.
Me too.
But I see why they wanted to keep the structure. Like I gave the example last time that The Office. Like, it seemed to me weird that the concept is The Office, and then you go, the next episode you're going to a bar and hanging out there.
At Cheers.
Yeah, Cheers. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought the story was about...
Yeah, but this one was similar to the second one because it was all about Lester trying to make a fool out of her.
I mean, there's a little bit of continuity in that the last one we learned that Lester and Bud, the president there, are getting together and they're going to take down Betty.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have a continuation where now that's Lester's sole purpose is to take down Betty. The first image we start off on is there's like a hole and you're looking in and you just see legs, and it's the director directing these women, and then you see the point of view of just an eyeball through the megaphone.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, this is so good. And you're on the key. That is very good. All right.
And to me, this seems a little disturbing, and it seems like a peeping Tom, or I don't know. There's a little more sexuality in this episode.
He doesn't know how to work the megaphone.
I know, but the images we're seeing...
But it's like a peep show.
Yes.
It's like a peep show. Back in the day, people would look through a hole and watch like a burlesque dance or a girl with legs.
Right.
And that would be the entertainment. Yeah. And I think that was harking back to that. Because this takes place in the 50s, doesn't it?
57, I believe.
57. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of thing was kind of
I still
common.
think that the people that are making this show have decided to use that imagery, and I'm sure there's a point there, but to me it just kind of goes back to even the Miss Twin Peaks and the same actor directing, where it seems like, show more of your cleavage. What's the purpose of this and stuff? I feel there's a little more sexuality in this one, at least innuendos.
I'm interested to hear these because
Yes.
I don't think it went over my head.
So you want to get into this? But this is the quiz show
Yeah, let's
episode.
get into it. The quiz, it's based off that movie, actually, quiz show.
In 1957, America's favorite program was a quiz show.
You have 21.
I'd like you to meet next week's challenger, Charles Van Doren.
But the game was fixed.
You lose when I tell you to lose. That little box in your living room is plugged into something crooked.
And so there was real scandals in the 1950s where these quiz shows were kind of cheating, and they would have things like, there was a quiz show called 21, and they would have a contestant basically be coached by the producer and allow the opponent to win. So it was all rigged.
Lester Guy wants to humiliate Betty by having her on this quiz show, and her partner, I think it was like her history teacher, and they're going to be up against Professor Answer.
Professor Answer. Mr. Answer, yes.
The man with the highest IQ ever measured.
Yes.
Because you
very
can't
smart
really
guy.
measure an IQ.
Right. I was going to say that it was her 7th grade teacher that
Yes.
she had.
Mrs. Thistle.
Ruth does a really good job of explaining this.
You see, it's all very simple. Professor Answer takes on all comers. This week, Betty and her 7th grade school teacher are going to compete with the professor. Now, each side takes turns answering questions, and whoever has the most money at the end of the game gets all that money plus whatever the other team has won. It's winner take all. And what's exciting about it is that someone could win as much as $64,000.
No, it sounds like just the thing Mr. Zablotnik loves. You seem to get $64,000!
President Bud is furious because, like, how are we going to pay for this?
Yeah. And then Lester is like, don't worry. That money is actually going to be donated by like a charity that he's a board member of that doesn't exist.
He's the only member.
He's the only member.
Yes. The Society Against the Use of Green Woods in Orphanages. And so he made up this fake company, but the whole purpose is just to take the money and then give it back. Mr. Answer is going to donate that money to this charity that's then going to go right back to the company.
The whole premise is it's going to be rigged.
It is a variety show like Saturday Night Live. And so a quiz show seems a little bizarre to me that they're putting on a variety show.
Yeah.
And then you have real money. And then, so when we get to actually announcing the quiz show, they announced Lester as Mr. Malcolm. To me, that's bizarre. So it's not even Lester. It's like
a character.
A character. It's one thing for like Saturday Night Live to have the Family Feud or Jeopardy quiz show, but it's not real. It's a funny little thing. This is a real stakes on money. To me, it's a little awkward and weird. Lester's making up his name, so why not just make everybody's name and not make it real? Just make it funny. I mean, I guess you have to. The whole point is that he wants to destroy Betty, but it's just. It's a little bizarre, and I get it in some ways. I get, like, oh, we want to make a...
It just doesn't fit in the model of a sketch comedy.
Yeah.
Or it's a variety show. So in a variety show, I guess it does work, but it is odd. It's odd because I felt like it was its own show, you know?
Yeah, and that's where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's why I got confused.
Yeah.
I felt like it was its own thing.
The producer, Dwight, here has allergies, and he starts sneezing, and he's a kind of a mess, and he's sick. That's a running theme throughout this episode here, is that he's not feeling well.
I like his character, too.
Yeah, he's a great actor and stuff.
Yeah.
A stagehandler goes by, and Lester and Nicole, Bud Waller's assistant, they're kissing. I didn't realize they were in a relationship, actually. I thought she was, like, really in love with him, and she seemed to be all over him in previous episodes. I really just thought he just put up with her like she's a fan or something.
I think it's because, well, someone likes him, and it's a female, and they're at the workplace.
Right.
He takes advantage of that.
Probably right, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I went back to the pilot because I knew it didn't happen in episode 2 at all because they were kind of separated because they were all busy at the restaurant doing things. But I went back to episode 1, the pilot, and I actually realized there was a time where they were close to each other and he wipes his mouth. And I realized, they may have just kissed right before that. I realized
I think you're right.
but they didn't actually kiss, and I never saw that dynamic. So it was interesting to just be like that. It's like, they've decided to structure it now where this is his kind of love interest and maybe bring them closer together to hating Betty.
Yes, but they're like a team.
Yeah, and I think that's what it seems like that's what they keep doing. They brought in President Bud there last week, and now they're bringing in Nicole in to be closer, and this is a kind of like team against Betty, and then I don't know who Betty supports. I guess everybody else loves Betty.
It's funny that all these people who are horrible people team up, but they can't take her down because good conquers evil.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great. And then there's a guy with a wheelbarrow. He's delivering mail, and Lester.
Oh, yeah. This is good.
He's saying, I think, fan mail,
Yeah.
and like he stops at Lester, hands him one letter, or a postcard, right? And that's it. And then he keeps on going, Betty. The rest, and like he's got 3 bags of mail for his wheelbarrow, and the rest of it he's yelling out for Betty because that's all of hers.
Since you are on the show and see her a lot, could you get Betty Hudson's autograph for me, ignorant clod?
I mean, can you get her autograph? And so it wasn't. He rips it up. It's like, this wasn't even for me. It's like, so it's funny that they continue that this again, the fan mail stuff.
The fan mail guy. That was one of my favorite moments. Was the pile of bags and him getting that lonely postcard.
My goodness, have you been going to a gym? I'm just upset. That's all.
I'm just upset. That's all.
Yeah, I know. Because he was all like,
it's like, is he puffy? Is he?
He's all red, maybe.
I don't know.
Embarrassed.
But is he like? Is he stiff and strong because he's just upset? But it was just to me, it was kind of a funny line. It was just kind of weird. Are you mad? No. I mean, it's like, have you been working out? No, I'm just mad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's too funny. I like it.
Lester then does a rehearsal on Amberjack's pipe connector commercial.
Oh, God. It was so bizarre, that commercial.
So, first of all, this is one of the sexual...
Oh,
this
yeah, I guess you're right.
This is a sexual,
You're right.
I actually thought this was going to go somewhere further throughout the story. But he's saying...
Having trouble laying pipe? With the Amberjack automatic connector, your pesky home plumbing problems can be as simple as... Why, the birds and the bees.
As simple as birds and bees. And he says, 2 pipes that need to be connected. And he talks about Mr. and Mrs. Pipe. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems like,
you're right.
Very sexual. I actually thought this was going to go further. I actually thought he was going to say all these lines later on in the live show. And everybody else was going to realize this is a very sexual thing. And it didn't really play out that way. But it was funny. To me, it seemed obvious, all these different things about the birds and the bees and the connecting and Mrs. and Mr. Pipes. It's like, whoa, what are we saying?
The machine comes in place.
It does. It does. And even that I thought was a little weak.
I feel like they're trying to take some of the good elements of episode 1 and have that kind of happen a lot.
Yeah.
You have the mishaps. And how many times can you do that? Like, things are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And
I like the goofiness, and I like some of that stuff, but yeah.
But it reminds me of the dog commercial.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So there's a commercial set up in the beginning of the episode, and at the end of the episode, the commercial, something's going to go wrong.
Right.
And with this, it was weak with the machine. I liked your idea better. That would have been way better payoff.
I think so. And I actually, at one point, like, he's doing the rehearsal for the commercial, and Betty's looking around, and I thought maybe Betty was the only one that got the sexual references. Like, everybody else is just kind of nodding, yeah, great commercial. And Betty's actually looking around. It's like, oh, they're going to pay it off to be like...
She knew it the whole time.
And it didn't go that way. Maybe it was on the cutting room floor. I don't know, but... Yeah. It seemed to me like she was the only one that got it. Betty and me, we understood it was a sexual innuendos there.
Aww.
And then they have a sign they brought in about Winner Takes All, which is the name of the quiz show. And it's spelled wrong because the director, he has
an accent.
He has that accent.
WENNAR, Wenar, takes is spelled TUKAS. And all is ULL.
Now, here's the thing, too. So my mind must be in the gutter for this episode, because I was almost going to say, is it saying, like...
Wiener?
Wiener took us, as in butt?
Wiener took us all? Yeah, it kind of looks... when he said it, that's what it sounded like.
Yes.
It sounded like Wiener took us all.
When you said it, it even made more sense. Yes, thank you, Bryon. And guess what? When the live show goes, the announcer actually says it.
Now it's time for Wiener Took Us All.
Yes, because he's reading it.
He's reading it. So even the announcer got the card wrong. Like,
yes.
It's a Wiener take us all.
Oh, man. Wow, this is all coming. I mean, I got it, but wasn't blatant, I guess, in my mind.
And so the stage handlers, they have to get the sign right. I don't think they have 4 hours. I think Ruth says they have 4 hours, and somehow they get their hands stuck together and they walk off with because they're messed there.
Yep.
But that again will play off later on.
Yeah.
I think about Saturday Night Live. I don't really like many quiz shows or game shows. I like maybe Family Feud and Jeopardy from Saturday Night Live, but I never think they really work half the time.
Saturday Night Live, when they did Celebrity Jeopardy, was the best.
The best.
Now, when they do Family Feud, it works when they introduce the families because it's always funny, the impressions.
Yes.
But when they have so many celebrities on the panel. By the time they do all the introductions, they only do one or two things.
Yes.
And it's over quick.
I guess that's the point. I
Yeah.
guess.
But I really wish they'd bring Celebrity Jeopardy back.
Yes.
And in this Lester Guy show, it's not even a parody if it's a game show. It is a real game show. That's not funny.
Right.
It's just a real game show.
Yes.
And I guess we keep comparing the Lester Guy show to Saturday Night Live, but it is a variety show. So variety always doesn't have to be funny. When Saturday Night Live first started, it was more of a variety show.
Yeah.
Because they had...
Oh, yeah.
The first season, you had musical guests, like, not the setup, but you would have a musical guest in the beginning. You would have George Carlin doing stand-up.
Right.
And you also had section with Sesame Street, with the Jim Heppett's Muppets.
Right, wow.
And it was really a variety show because not everything was funny.
Yeah. Andy Kaufman, there's somebody, he comes out, has a record, Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, he's just a Mighty Mouse.
Allergies still acting up, Mr. McGonagall?
Every year about this time, they turn my life upside down.
So now we get back to Dwight, the producer there, where he's sick. He's seeing spots. He's not feeling well. The director knows a doctor that can help him out. And the doctor is Dr. Winky. And we learn right away he's a veterinarian.
Yes.
And there's a dog going into his case and smelling stuff. And he's got like potions and stuff. And he gives one to Dwight. And right away he's all better.
He goes, my dogs love the medicine I give them.
Spots are gone. One drop and only one drop, and then it gets dangerous if you use too much. And they have like a glowing red around them, and so it's like some kind of magical...
They turn into Dougie from season 3, you know?
In the dressing room, Betty is nervous about doing the game show. And I think she got nervous because she started trying to answer questions, and there wasn't even time to answer questions. It's like, no, we're just trying to talk and...
Yeah, that goes to one of my favorite quotes. My favorite quote of this episode is Lester Guy says, Betty, can I ask you something? And Betty responds,
Is that a question?
is that a question?
Yeah.
Like, she's all confused. I'm like, it's a question, but not part of the game show. But she's thinking it's a question for the game show.
She's thinking very hard. Like, she wants to be prepared for this game show.
Yes.
I'm sure she doesn't want to disappoint her teacher.
I know. That's a big disappointment there.
So, Lester comes into the dressing room and he just wants to wish her good luck. He wants things to go really well. And he decides just to ask her a question just for the fun of it. And he says, what is the only state in the union with one syllable? And she gets it wrong. I believe she says Hawaii.
And he's
it
like,
says,
perfect. He turns into like one of those villains with a mustache,
Yes.
and he should be curling it.
And it's working just as I planned.
Yeah, it's turning into a Looney Tune cartoon where she is the Roadrunner and he is Wile E. Coyote.
Meep, meep.
Yeah, pretty much.
The live show starts, and Lester, like I said, he's at the light post again. So that's how it starts. You have the announcer, you see the tower there, and then you go right to Lester, and he's doing his miming, he's doing his thing. He doesn't dance around the light post and fall over like he did in the pilot, but he's just kind of miming away, listening to the music. And then the stagehandlers walk into the scene while it's live, and they're still stuck together, and they're just walking by. It's like, what is it about the production people that don't realize when there's a live show you don't walk onto set?
Yeah, I know.
There was a duck in the last episode, and there's a duck now sitting on the seats with the company suit people. He's just quacking away there.
Yeah, it's like the animals just come in, they can't leave. Like we had the dog, and now we have a duck. Yeah, I want to see how many more animals we get by the time the show ends.
And so Lester has started the quiz show, and he asks Betty, who'd you bring on to help you win this money? And she says, what's the question? And then Ruth tells Betty, who is your partner? And Betty says, my father's dead, and my mother is home watching. So I think she thought Ruth said, who are your parents?
Yes. Oh, God. It's already started off. You're already like, oh, Betty's going to lose.
So what if she lost? American loves her. They wouldn't be like, I hate that girl now.
I think it's all ego. It's all for him. He doesn't care about what the viewer thinks. It's all about humiliating her.
Yeah.
And I think that it's all ego-driven. Because say this plot went the other way. Say it did humiliate her, like she lost. I could see the writers coming up with, he's like, aha, we humiliated you live on the air. And then she gets tons of mail saying, oh my God, that was so bad, and donating her money. Wouldn't that have been great too?
That would have been good.
Like,
you should have wrote this episode.
I know, donating like a couple bucks to her, and then he would have been like, what the heck?
So the quiz show starts, and both sides are getting answers right. But then Mr. Z's red phone calls Bud, and he's upset that he found out about this money.
Yes.
So here's the interesting thing about Mr. Z. We get to meet him in person in the restaurant, and we talked about how funny and silly he is, and he's so happy.
Yeah.
And you have this red phone, which I guess you never hear the person talk, but you always get the sense that this person's going to be very angry.
We had fire and water.
Right, we have water in this one.
Yes.
But it's funny, like, that to me is not the same person I met in the restaurant. It's like, it's strange how...
Continuity's off there.
Right. It's like, so are you saying he's funny and bubbly with Betty, and then when he gets back to his office, he's pissed off the way things are going? I can see how you can have both characters, but I don't think it's the same. It shouldn't be the same person.
No. Like, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. After seeing episode 2, it doesn't make any sense. I totally agree. Like, why would water come through the phone? Like, fire is anger, but water to me seems...
You're all washed up. I mean, your career is over.
I know. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
That was a weird one.
Yes.
I like the fire gag would have been great again.
I mean, again, I think you're right when you said they're going back to episode 1 and they're trying to kind of make that again.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
We're going to Blinky. They're doing the sounds while Mr. Answer is going to answer the question.
You have 30 seconds, Professor.
So many different sounds in the universe.
Infinitesimal. Each combination means different things to different people.
Blinky Watts is not blind. He suffers from Bozeman's simplex. If we were to see what Blinky is seeing right now, it would look something like this.
Blinky is a great character.
Every episode we get to know about how he can see much better than us.
It's wearing thin. And they have to have an announcer tell you.
Yes.
Every time.
So originally, I believe Blinky was going to be blind. And the ABC people said, oh, you can't do that. That's offensive. So then that's where he came up with this concept that he has better vision. His vision is so amazing that he can't really see.
That he's blind.
Yes. But, yeah. So that's...
I love that. David Lynch thinking out of the box.
Right. If you want him blind, I'll make him see better than you can.
What if he's like, I want him to be... like in a wheelchair. Oh, you can't have him in a wheelchair. I'd be like, all right, he can walk so fast that he has to be in a wheelchair or he'll break his legs.
Yes, there you go.
That's what he would do.
Certain people find certain sounds unpleasant.
Nope.
And all of a sudden there's a different sound and it freaks Mr. Answer out and he gets his question wrong. But I don't know if Blinky did that on purpose or if it was just coincidence that he says some sounds affect people differently. And all of a sudden there's a sound and Mr. Answer gets it wrong. I was trying to figure that out. It's like, are they rooting for Betty and so they're trying to throw Mr. Answer off his game?
I think they are. I think secretly they are rooting for Betty.
So they take a break, and I think they need a break partly because Betty's team is winning. And during the break, Miss Thistle, who's Betty's teacher, says,
I just wish my friends back home could see this.
Why couldn't they? I'm sorry. Don't your friends have televisions?
Oh, yes, but this is a rehearsal, isn't it?
This is the Blotnick Network. Millions of people are watching.
Right now? Millions of people or?
Possibly even hundreds of thousands.
Millions of... Oh, no.
Live television.
Millions of people are watching, and she freaks out.
She thought it was a rehearsal.
She thought it was a rehearsal, and she's like, millions, and she gets close to the camera. I mean, we're still on break here, so it's not live, but she gets her, and she screams into the camera there, and she just runs off, and she's freaked out. And President Bud sees this, and he's excited. It's like, oh, this is a good time to start the show again. Maybe we can
make a comeback. Yeah.
While this is happening, Dwight is taking...
He's turning into a dog slowly.
He's taking more of the potion, and the dog jumps on him and spills the potion all over him.
Yes, and it absorbs, and he gets it in him, and he becomes... It's like when you watch an old show and someone does coke, they become really quick and frantic.
Yes.
It's sort of like that, but he's a dog.
Right.
He's a frantic dog.
And so Lester is actually doing the pipe connector commercial. And that's why I was disappointed that he didn't get very far. He was told to go back to the quiz show, and he didn't put the connection back into the machine. Yes. And I guess that's it. But I guess I wanted more of that commercial because you set it up before, and now it's kind of just like, I'm just going to leave this here and go back to the quiz show. And I don't know.
Missed opportunities.
A lot, maybe.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he gets back. He's like, oh, you know, Miss Thistle's not here, so let's just start. You're going to have to do it by yourself, Betty. And so she's going to start, and that's when Dwight comes in, acting like a dog, picking up Betty's purse with his mouth, and then going over to Lester and just acting like a dog. I think he barks. I think
and he's kind of panting.
The potion comes out of his mouth and he's back to normal.
It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
It's really out there. It's even really out there for what we've seen in the last 2 episodes.
It's so scary to say the last 2 episodes were more grounded.
Yes.
Isn't that scary? Because those were crazy, but this is like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. And then there's a woman watching the show, and her dog howls back. And that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, yeah.
Could you repeat the question, Lester?
And so when Dwight becomes normal again, he asks to repeat the question, and that's when Lester says, okay, you've got a new partner.
He's a super genius all of a sudden. He's answering stuff.
So then Lester says he repeats the question that he knew Betty wouldn't get. And he says, what is the only state in the Union? And he gets cut off Maine from Dwight. It backfired where he thought it was a sure win because he knew she didn't have the answer to that. You have a partner that was able to get it. Couldn't Miss Thistle, probably, who's a teacher, wouldn't she have gotten this right anyway?
But she was nervous. She didn't want to be in camera anymore.
No, but he didn't know that originally when he went to the dressing room.
I know. See, okay, it's very problematic. If Mrs. Thistle had stayed in the game, you don't think they would have won.
Yeah.
They would have won. And it's weird to think the only reason that Betty was going to suffer is that she thought she was in rehearsal. If the teacher had known the whole time, they would have won this. Unless they started asking really hard questions. But clearly, that's not a hard question.
Yes.
Because Dwight the dog got it.
I don't know. The dog.
It is very... don't think too hard about it.
All right. And so then Lester goes to ask Mr. Answer a question about children's rhymes. So that's going to be that. And that freaks Mr. Answer out because he says,
I'm sorry. I was never allowed to learn any rhymes. I was never allowed to be a child.
Who cares? I'm ruined.
It's all circumstantial. All this is like, it's all because of the writer. You know, like, because of the writers. That's so weird. You have the guy with the biggest IQ, and all of a sudden he's like, I can't.
But I think
rhymes.
the concept is that in some ways Betty is a child. She acts like a child, and the child is smarter than the smartest man.
What was that game show? Smarter than a 5th grader?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's maybe they got the idea from this episode.
Maybe they did.
So you think you're smarter than a 5th grader?
That's it.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, out of nowhere, the Amberjack's pipe connector is up in the rafters, and there's a handler who's taking care of it. Like, why is it in the rafters?
We have a pipe that goes to an empty aluminum tank. Easy does it. Lovely. On my right, we have a pipe that goes to a tank on the top of our building.
And as the handler's handling it, it sprays all over the place.
Wait, what about the mystery question?
Get it? What? Get it? What? I'm flying! Show me this switch! What?
Sprays all over the place, gets on Dwight, and then Dwight...
He kind of wakes up from his whole...
Yeah.
Smart dog thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I still wanted that connector to be, I don't know, I feel like it could have been handled better. Like, you set it up and it was just kind of...
They didn't know where to go with it.
Yeah.
I don't think they knew a lot, like, in this episode. I felt like they're repeating a lot from episode 1, and their setups don't pay off. And maybe that's why the show didn't last very long.
And yet... the next episode that aired on July 4th is a great episode. It's a fun episode.
And now, it's time for the mystery question. Now remember, if you miss it, you forfeit all your winnings.
And then the final question, it has to do with a Scottish play.
In what is known as the Scottish play, Act 5, Scene 1, contains what famous outburst of guilt and remorse?
Dwight and Betty both say together,
Ow!
Damn spot!
Ow!
And that just happened to be the reference in the play.
Oh,
and they win it.
Yeah, this is all circumstance. It's all because the writers wanted it to be. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's very predictable. And out damn spot because they're talking to the dog licking.
Yes.
And that happens to be the answer. Just like Mr. Answer happens to have a fear of rhyming.
Yes.
But that's the question he gets. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I mean...
The good guys always win.
I know. I have to say, it's a little lazy writing. This is kind of more of a lazy writing episode.
Yeah, it's weird because I like the concept of using quiz scandals. I like the idea that the 1950s, so they're in 1957.
Yeah,
so the idea
makes
of
sense.
using real world scandals, I think that was brilliant. I just it didn't quite work for me.
It's 22 minutes long. They don't really have the backing of the network. They're putting the show out. And they're trying to repeat episode 1. There's a lot of setups that don't pan out. And I'll go back and say, it's not totally lazy writing. It's probably writing of a rushed product, writing of really not knowing the show yet.
And and to be honest with you, there's so many shows that took some time to find themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about shows like Star Trek, Next Generation. You have things where it took a season or at least where they still really found their characters and who they were and where the story wanted to be. And it's unfortunate this never got the chance to really find themselves.
Yeah, definitely. This is episode 3 out of 7, so I mean, there's still development there.
Yeah, and so the show ends with the dog reading the paper, and I think he's talking as well. So basically the dog has become the human, and the human was the dog.
It's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre. It's really out there, and it's like, I guess for me too, it's not what I thought the show was, or is maybe. I don't think of On the Air as this magical.
It's very cartoonish, this one. I mean, I'm hoping episode 4 becomes a little bit more grounded, because when I wanted cartoonish, you cut the Blinky. And you see his wacky.
I like that. I like the wacky stuff.
You have certain characters that have wacky, but this is wacky through everything,
right?
And everybody, and it is kind of like it's like watching Roger Rabbit or something. It's just very out there.
It's funny because it kind of what happened with Twin Peaks. You had some wacky characters. Let's say Nadine, who was a little out there and a little weird and strange, and then you get into season 2, a whole show can kind of be wacky, where you have little Nicky and you have all these other things where it was okay to have serious stuff going on and then have a little wacky and then serious stuff. But when it takes it over where it kind of loses...
Yeah, you didn't have Cooper taking medicine to become a dog, and you didn't have Harry all of a sudden go on a quiz show. You had certain characters that maintained that wackiness that was still grounded. Andy, Lucy, like you said. But you weren't making everybody that way.
Yeah.
And this episode kind of just just says, okay, we're all nuts. Everybody's wacky. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
It's the weakest one out of the 3.
Yes.
Definitely. I think I like 2 so far.
Yeah, I agree with you.
1 and 2.
Yes.
I don't know which one's better, but I enjoy them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might go with 1 just because I feel like that's the concept of what the show should still be. I still like the idea of the rehearsal and then you perform it and kind of seeing where things go wrong.
Oh, I want to mention one of my other favorite quotes. When Dwight joins Betty on the panel, Guy says, "Let's all get down on our hands and knees and look for Professor Answer's IQ." And Dwight, confused as he is, actually starts to get on his hands and knees to look for his IQ. And it was metaphorically, like they're getting ready to play round 2.
I don't have much more to say about this episode. It was okay. Like I said, I like Bob Angles. I like his work. I don't know. I just didn't connect with this one. What I do have to say is I don't think we've mentioned this on the last 2 shows. But, on the first episode, we talked about how Lynch... this idea just came to him. I think he was mixing it during season 2 of Twin Peaks, and this whole idea of things going wrong came to him. Well, Mark Frost also had a whole idea about this as well, and I just thought I'd share that with you.
Okay.
So this was from The Independent on August 22nd, 1992. Mark Frost says in this article, "My father used to work in live television, told us stories about it, and when I talked to David about the subject, he just loved the idea of all the backstage chaos and really took the lead with it. I wrote a lot of the material with particular actors from Twin Peaks in mind. We built up sort of a repertoire company, and the humor grew out of the funny parts of Twin Peaks, which are really the parts I'm most pleased with."
Oh, wow.
At least when he was thinking of this, he thought about what his father had done in the past. I also love that he shared that he wanted Twin Peaks actors to be part of this. Of course,
That's cool.
have Ian Buchanan in this, and of course we have Miguel Ferreira in this. And we have the director who was part of this from Twin Peaks. I wonder if Kimmy Robertson should have been Betty or was thought about having her be Betty. Because, boy, Lucy and Betty seem similar to me.
You know, I like the actress who plays Betty. I'm glad it's not Lucy because they're a little bit different. They're similar. You know what I compare them to, though? Do you remember when Friends and Mad About You, when Phoebe had her twin sister that was on Mad About You?
Yes.
That's sort of like,
All
they
right.
could be sisters.
Yeah, they could be sisters.
They could be sisters. It's weird. Betty's more childlike, kind of innocent, where Lucy, she is strong-willed. And, like, if you put Lucy's character in this episode, she would have just punched Lester Guy out. I really swear to God, I think Lucy has that in her to be like, when she was up against Dick, played by the same actor,
right?
She was not happy. Like, if that show came out today, she'd probably be flipping him off. Like, when they're doing the whole wine tasting, she's...
You know, you're right. You make great points. Thinking back in the first season when there was a whole idea that she was pregnant and she wouldn't talk to Andy, she gave Andy a hard time about, like, I'm mad at you and stuff. So you're right. She is a little tougher than Betty is.
She is. I think Betty would just be kind of like...
But still, Kimmy could do it. Kimmy could do anything. She could play Betty different from Lucy.
You're right. You're right. It's true, though.
Maybe you're
right.
like their cousins, or you're saying sisters. I do feel like there's some similarities of, like, I hate using the word dumb, or I'm trying to think of a word. I'm trying to think that they're not always understanding their environment.
I think they're naive. They're a little naive. They're more innocent in a way of their surroundings. They're not. They're paying attention. You just don't know it.
Yeah,
maybe.
And in future episodes, we'll come back to this. I think in future episodes, Betty will do some things that are like Lucy, and so we'll revisit this again.
Okay, I do agree that Kimmy could have played this character.
Yeah,
but I'm happy she didn't.
I agree. The actress who plays Betty in this, she does a great job.
But she could have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about Mark Frost as he's laying down like the idea of different characters. He'd say, okay, I can see Ian playing this character, and I can see Miguel playing this, and I could see Kimmy probably playing this, or we want a Lucy-like character.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree there. So if you want to get to some reviews, I got 2 reviews in an email.
Okay, sounds good.
So it's getting harder and harder to find reviews on the air, as you can tell. But I got a couple. I got 2. Edward wrote on YouTube, there needs to be a balance. David Lynch's comedy works when there is an unsettling and opposite mood/theme. Full-on David Lynch comedy is like full-on Michael Bay action. It's too much and loud. And Edward had wrote this, in the comment section of episode 3. And, David Lynch didn't have anything to do with this episode. I mean, he didn't write it, he didn't direct it. But I get what Edward's saying.
Right.
His absurdity does work when, like Wild at Heart, you have a moment where Willem Dafoe walks in and he says to Lula, I gotta use the head, and it's a joke. Because he says, I'm not going to pee in your head. I got to use the bathroom.
Right.
And that's a joke. But then, seconds later, after he's peed for a very long time, and it's kind of unsettling and kind of funny, he goes into some really sadistic and horrible dialogue. And that's the funny, absurd to the mood switch between funny and absurd and just kind of scary. I see this person's point. Lynch's comedy works when you have a flip of the switch, but David Lynch didn't have anything to do with this episode. I think Lynch probably could have improved this episode.
Yeah. I keep hearing that he was more involved with this than he was Twin Peaks, but...
His name doesn't show up anywhere, for writing or directing, so...
No, you're right. Right. And it is so funny. I mean, this is so true with even Twin Peaks. People would consider every episode to be David Lynch's. And we know from doing this show, he wasn't involved with anything, but his stamp is on. This is like David Lynch's Twin Peaks. So whatever, for the good things that happen, David Lynch gets credit. For the bad things that happen, David Lynch gets credit. So
in a way, it kind of works out for the people who don't want to deal with the bad things.
Right. I feel sometimes bad for Mark Frost, who worked hard on that show, and he doesn't always get all the credit he deserves.
It's his show too.
Right, it's his show too, but you have a director that is out there more. And
So that was an interesting comment But I get what this person's coming from. And then also Mike wrote on YouTube, I love David Lynch, but I did not find this show funny at all.
It's not his cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But we did get a very nice email from a long-time listener, Jamie. Jamie wrote, hey guys, just wanted to say that I'm loving the on-air coverage. And I'm watching along, which I love that idea.
That's awesome.
For the first time since I've never seen it before. So he's watching along with us, which is great. And I'm hoping more of you do that. All the episodes are on YouTube. Please watch along with us. I'm really enjoying it. I can see that the slightly screwy mix of strange characters and sight gags is not for everyone, but I'm loving it. If somebody asked me to describe what its tone is like, it feels to me as if it's somewhere between something very silly like Police Squad, which, yes, Police Squad. Remember
yes, I do remember that. That's a good example.
So, if everybody remembers The Naked Gun,
yep.
I didn't learn this till much I was older. I remember watching Police Squad with my grandfather. I remember the Naked Gun movies, but I didn't know they were related. And I'm like, oh, so the Naked Gun movies were based off the TV show Police Squad, which I never got.
Yeah.
Because I saw them in reverse. I saw the Naked Gun movies first and then reruns at Nick at Night or wherever. But Police Squad was an awesome comedy. Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, yeah. Funny stuff.
Yeah, really funny stuff. More slapsticky. I think the comedy was more refined. I think you had some people in there that knew comedy. Not saying these people who don't, but these people lived and breathed comedy. So I think it was a little bit different. But I totally agree. Very silly Police Squad and the affectionate satire of some of the Coen Brothers films, especially the Hudsucker Proxy, a film that is a favorite of mine. And also mine, too. The Hudsucker Proxy was my first Coen Brothers movie I ever saw when I was a teenager.
I've seen a lot of Coen Brothers. I don't remember seeing
Tim
that
Robbins.
Wow.
You gotta see it.
I feel like there's a hula.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know if I've seen it.
He falls off the skyscraper. It was the first one I ever saw from Coen Brothers. Didn't even know it. I was like a teen. I would go rent my movies on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And it was a great one.
Cool.
That was cool, Jamie. I like that. Thanks as always. As a bearded man, I support more beard growth. And I think it's because he says that because I think, Jamie, I believe it was you. Someone said I thought Ben is the one with the beard.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, Bryan's got the beard when they saw us on our live video when we did the card opening.
Yes, and I think I said I could grow my beard, but you know what? Honestly, my kids like me without a beard and stuff, so I don't know. I probably won't get a beard.
I hate shaving, so I will always have a beard.
I don't love shaving. I'm like the worst shaver. I probably shave every few days or something. I'm like really bad. Like,
when I worked in the restaurant industry, I had to shave, and I hated it.
One co-host with the beard and one without. So we'll do that.
Yeah. But thank you so much for the email, Jimmy. It means a lot to us. And, sometimes we get emails from everybody. We don't have the time to write back, but we do appreciate them. So keep them coming, please.
And we'd love to hear if you've seen this episode or there's another episode of On the Air that you want to talk about. Write to us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com.
Yes. And before we wrap up, Ben, Nancy Ferguson, who plays Ruth Truthworthy, which there's a fabulous article in The Woman of Lynch, Blue Rose magazine.
Oh, yeah, in issue 7 there.
On newsstands now at bluerose.com, bluerosemag.com. Go get that. She recalls her experience working on the show. For me, it was like a David Lynch comedy. How amazing is that? What could it possibly be, she says. I didn't see it as a departure. There's a darkness to David's work, but he always sees the light no matter how dark you go. Like with Twin Peaks, yes, it's dark, but there's this delightful side in a lot of the moments, which is pretty much David when you see him as a human being. And that kind of goes back to what Edward said on YouTube. You have a light and dark.
Yeah.
And she saw that. So, Ben, that is On the Air episode 3. It was something. We enjoyed it overall. On the Air is worth watching.
Yeah, it's still fun characters. Miguel Ferreira always is amazing.
Steals the show.
He steals the show every time.
Betty, the woman who plays Betty, she steals the show.
I'm really looking forward to seeing episode 4 to see what happens next.
Yeah, me too. So, like Jamie, please follow along. The shows are on YouTube. Watch them. And hopefully we'll be wrapping up on the air by the end of the year.
That's our goal.
That's our goal. We got a lot of great stuff in store for the end of 2018. So please stick with us. Subscribe to us on the good old iTunes. Give us that 5-star review. A nice little comment at the bottom is always welcome. Also, you can subscribe to us on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. And we appreciate everybody who voted for us in the podcast awards. We were nominated. We did not win, but maybe we'll do it next year. We just were happy to get nominated.
I love being nominated. I mean, to be part of 10 podcasts that have been nominated for this category.
Globally.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
In TV and film, I think that's a great honor, and I'm always happy for that.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everybody who did vote for us. That means the world to us. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing the show. And if you'd like to support us a little bit, check us out at TeePublic. Buy a shirt, phone case, a mug. The holidays are coming up. You can buy it for a loved one, for yourself. Give yourself a present, like Cooper would say. And you can give us an email, twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. And like us on Facebook. And how is the Twitter going, Ben?
Twitter's awesome. I love the community. I love the pictures and all the things that they share. There's people out there that like make connections to the show that I just love. Like they see stuff from the original series and they bring it.
I love that stuff.
That stuff is just, I love it. And, I have to retweet it. It's like, oh wow, I never thought of it this way and stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Some really clever, creative people.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
How interesting. How very, very interesting.